everybody today, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you. I'm going to let them tell you about their backgrounds. They both have interesting backgrounds, and I can't wait to hear more about their young company. They're located right here in our focus suites. And so with that, guys, take it away.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate the opportunity today. I'm Mike Friend. This is Tony Dutter, and he has a far more interesting background than I do, which is part of the reason why we're in this business. But a little bit on me, to piggyback off of what this gentleman just said as far as charitable background. I spent 11 years working for City Impact in Lincoln, and have done a lot of marketing and fundraising consulting for nonprofit organizations. I've been involved for about 20 years. I serve on the board of Camp Sunshine.
Stage photo op.
Yeah. And so I do that really for my primary income source. I've done a little bit of work for the Christian Camp and Conference Association out of Colorado Springs, International Drowning Prevention Organization, and things like that. So there's a number of nonprofits that are worthy of support today, so it'd be a great time to do it on Give to Lincoln Day. So I totally agree with that. Most of them are doing amazing work and usually don't have enough resources to do it. So that's a little bit of my background. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm a hockey player by a long time ago, glory days kind of thing. And you can learn more about that on our website, which is bestcustomapparel.com, and our Facebook page, which we really would appreciate it if you go out and like, if you like what you hear today and see. But we started up this business because of a need we saw, and Tony can talk a little bit about that and maybe his background. I've lived in Nebraska for about 25 years. My wife is from here. We've been in Lincoln since 2002, live out by Eagle. Previously was officing out of my home, and the internet is terrible out there. We pay for as much as we can, but it just doesn't work as well as it does here. So we were on the waiting list for about 6 months here, and anybody who's thinking about getting an office here, I can tell you it's a great place to be. So there's more to it than just the high-speed internet. There's great coaching and everything else.
Good morning. I'm Tony Dutter. I was born and raised in Lincoln, Nebraska. Grew up at 70th and Pioneers when there was nothing at 70th and Pioneers. I think I know you, Brad Hars. Are you David's dad? Excellent. We'll talk later. I am, the best way to put it, I suppose, would be an athlete. I've played baseball since I was 4 years old, all the way up until I played professionally for teams, independent minor league teams like the Salt Dogs all over the country. Played with, against, and was coached by many, many former major leaguers. And as I tried to figure out my life path at some point, I realized that I loved coaching and teaching, not in a classroom setting, because I'm a rule breaker. I don't like to be in a classroom. I like to have sun and sky and dirt to play with. So we started a baseball organization, and through that organization we have had to order many, 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 many uniforms for many, many kids, different ages, different sizes. And the why, I suppose, is many reasons why. Just found that many of our uniform providers were unprofessional, didn't take good notes, forgot who we were, forgot we needed kid sizes versus adult sizes. Many things were wrong. Everybody makes mistakes, but it just seemed like over and over, any type of apparel, specifically sports uniforms we needed, were just a tragedy almost every time. And we thought, certainly we can do this better at better prices. We had a friend who was in the dye sublimation business, which we'll talk about here a little bit more in detail in a minute. But the other factor that I really didn't know about myself, I grew up almost as a only child. My brother was 8 years younger than me, and so I had 8 years of shopping with my mom. She was a stay-at-home mom, and before Target, it was Miller and Payne and Yonkers and all these other stores. Man, I would spend hours in stores shopping for great deals. As this young lady said, many people are looking for good deals. And I think it got in my blood, because I I basically dress my wife. I pick out all her clothes. She always takes me shopping with her. Pick out all my clothes for my kids, pick out my clothes, and through all these designs that we've done, I found that I really love designing clothes and fashion. My daughter would say I'm a fashionista. It doesn't really sound politically correct, but that's what my girls call me. We also wanted to do things simple. You know what I mean? As many times as I've built uniforms, it's always been, well, we got to have 100, right? Or you need to order 75 polos, Nate. You can't just order one. We said, why can't we just give people one polo? Or somebody who's starting out a business, why can't we make them one stupid t-shirt? Why do we have to have 100? You know, when you're starting a small business or you're doing something just to try it out, you don't want to order 100. So we, as I thought about it this morning, want to be a business that can provide 500 uniforms for a large baseball organization, but also provide that 1 or 2 t-shirts for, sorry, I just keep picking on Nate because everybody's been talking about Nate. 1 or 2 t-shirts for Nate's coffee when he's just getting started, right? To figure out how much are these? Do I like the way they look? It's just me and my business partner, or me and myself. I need 2 shirts for the week. I don't want to order 100. I don't have money to order 100. Or a mom on a baseball team who just wants a tank top with a glittery logo on it. Great, we can do that. We don't need to order 100. You might have to pay a little extra for one versus ordering 100, but we want to give that option to people instead of always having to order so many. What I want. It always seemed like when we went to build a uniform or pick out fan apparel for our teams, we could never get what we wanted. We would say, this is what we want. And they say, well, we could do this or maybe this, but we can't really do that. It's like, why? Why can't we just print my logo on my shirt? Why does it have to be your way? You know? So that's another reason that really was at the heart of this for me. I don't know so much about Mike, but I wanted to give people what they want in their logo, on their apparel, on their shirt, on their hat, versus what I can change it to. What do you want? You know, what do you need for your shirt or your hat or your pants or your wristband or your tie or whatever?
To go along with that, we were very fortunate in the first few months of business where we received quite a few orders from baseball coaches, including like this UTAN jersey and a number of other jerseys of select baseball teams. Probably around 20 different teams have ordered from us, from all the way from Iowa to Hastings, Nebraska, the Omaha Crush. And because of that, one of the things we realized is these, part of our story is these dye sublimated uniforms are actually made in Haiti, but the gentleman who owns the machine is from Lincoln. Okay, it's like a $200,000 or $300,000 machine. And it's in a non-sweatshop in Haiti, so it's done with a living wage down there. But one of the things we found is that sometimes, because it's in a foreign country, you have to wait a little longer for things. And so one of the things we decided to do with some of the profits that we received, and we were fortunate to in the first few months of business, was to buy part of the supply chain ourselves. So just over here in First, Nebraska, we have our own 6-color screen printer, which allows us, and machine and dryer. So we can do 10,000 business t-shirts right now if we want to. We have an order this summer for a business who wants to do 500. An example of that would be something along these lines. So one of the things we decided to do was, in order to have the best service and reliability in the industry, sometimes you have to own part of the supply chain to guarantee that will happen. Now, these are high quality, moisture wicking shirts. They're great. They just take a little longer sometimes to get. And if you need a shirt in a week, you don't want to wait, a month to get it or 3 weeks to get it. So that's one of the things we decided to do, is we want to be the best service and reliability, at least in this region. And most of the advertising we do on Google, the limited amount that we do in South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, Colorado. And we've gotten a couple of leads that way with very limited spend, because I have a background in digital marketing and I know a little bit about it, just enough to be dangerous. But again, part of it is we found in the more rural areas, there's just not as good a service as there is like if you're in New York City or somewhere like that. So
So I think that covers the why section. Again, like I said, I like to break the rules. Does anybody have questions about the why section or anything now before I get to a couple other things? Oh, sorry.
So you can see your stuff.
Excellent.
We didn't get a chance to talk about that beforehand. So.
Great. No questions about the why. Okay. So I just want to give you a little bit of education. Very simple. If I see you nodding your head, that's your signal to tell me to move to the next item, okay? But I just find it so fascinating how things are made, okay? So as you can see, these two guys, Nate and the gentleman behind him who does computers, right? They have embroidery on their polos, right? That's where a sewing machine sews your logo onto your fabric, right? What Mike is wearing is what's called dye sublimation. Screen printing is the most common form of t-shirt making that there is, right? It's very simple. I shouldn't say that. Let me back up, erase that, edit that. Screen printing is extremely tedious and messy, okay? But it is a ton of fun. The cool thing about screen printing is you can just about do anything. You're limited to colors in a sense. Usually 6 to 8 colors is about as much as you want to do on screen print, because every screen has to be covered with an emulsion that gets exposed to UV light that has your logo on it, and then it leaves a space, okay? So it's almost like stenciling t-shirts. And so each screen is one color. So I flip this screen over and I rub my white ink across it, and then I move my machine and I bring in the second color, if that's black or pink or whatever. And so once you start getting past 6 colors, it starts to get a little difficult to even show that tiny, tiny piece of ink on a fabric. If any of you have been to or seen any sort of basketball, baseball, football tournament shirts, and they put like all the kids' names on the back and they're about this small and you can barely read them, that just becomes a little bit too detailed for screen printing. You have to have a washout basin that you're spraying. You clean these things first, and then once you have that emulsion on there and you expose it to UV light, you're washing it out. It's not a precise thing. Most t-shirts that are screen printed, again, not super politically correct, but just kind of cheap and imprecise. You know, big logos are the best. Smaller logos, you can tell they're off-centered or whatnot. But it's a ton of fun to mess around with. But again, it is messy and tedious, and that's why you hear when you go look for t-shirts, you know, they want you to order 100 because they don't want a screen print. It probably takes half a day to make one screen, one color. So if you have more than one, it just takes forever. And so I don't want to make you one shirt, you know, that's going to take me all day, right? But if you do order 100, it's a very simple way to make a whole bunch of shirts in 1 or 2 colors. Okay?
And I would say too, the other thing with one of the reasons we wanted to be involved with dye sublimation is not only did we understand that on the coast this was happening a lot and more teams over there were going to this, and probably only about 10% of the teams in this area were starting to adopt that, but we had a small charity that wanted a shirt with 10 colors on it. Well, you're not going to do that with screen printing, and it's a nightmare, and the charity doesn't want to spend a lot of money. So you can put 50 colors theoretically on a gas embedded shirt, which is what dye sublimation is. You also have the ability with these to basically go across any stitching pattern, and you're not going to see any, it's going to go right across the stitching pattern, so it just looks sharper.
That's a photo that we use to create a shirt. I mean, it's clear, it's beautiful, right? I mean, it might not be what you would want, but it's you can take a HD photo, quality photo, and put it on your shirt. It looks awesome. You put people's faces on them. You know, the old days in the 70s and 80s, they had those t-shirt shops where they'd forget those kind of printers. They're like dot matrix printers, and they'd put your picture on them and they'd have glitter around them, right? Like that is out with the old, in with the new. This is the new way of making really cool and lasting shirts. Like this isn't gonna fade or wash out or rub off.
Yeah, they really hold up very well. And depending on the materials that you use and the stitching pattern, we can pretty much get anything that's out there. Because we don't have a storefront, there's one or two national suppliers that we're not able to work with, but 95% of them we can work with. And we have wholesale accounts set up with many already. And so if there's any that a team might want to work with, like Under Armour or some other brand, we can certainly make it happen. So.
Okay, second item, heat pressing, okay? This is from the 70s and 80s, right? You have these t-shirt shops at East Park Plaza and all these other places. Yeah, yep. So heat pressing is a lot more precise. I can put it on my iron and put it exactly where I want it and then drop the iron down. It's just once you get past one or two colors, it gets a little dicey, right? You don't want to put another color on top of these because then they can start to peel and flake off. But it's a quick, easy way to get a real fast t-shirt. This is from a warehouse team here in Lincoln that was playing some sort of competition between each other in the warehouse, and so they needed shirts quick. They needed a quick design. Heat press you can do in half a day. You can do 50 shirts in half a day.
They wanted cheap shirts. So heat pressing is a lot less expensive.
Heat pressing is a vinyl. You buy these long rolls of vinyl. Printer cuts them out into almost any design type of thing you want. Put it on the shirt, drop that iron down. You've seen them before, right? Bang. It's done. It's really cool. Again, it's 1 to 2 colors. What else did I want to say about that? If you start looking at like the Under Armour and the Nikes and the Adidas and the different brands of shirts, usually their logo on that chest is a heat press logo. Like sometimes on the polos, this polo has embroidery on it, but some polos even have their logo just heat pressed on there. Very, very inexpensive, quick, but again, it will peel sooner than your screen printing shirt will fade. So I would say heat press is a 6 to 8 month, maybe a year without peeling if it's done right, and then screen print's probably 1.5 to 2 years, depending on how often you wash them and use them before it starts to kind of fade and the ink starts to crack.
And these last a lot longer than that because again, it's gas embedded into the shirt. So if you notice those Hastings Chiefs shirts, which we're going to be delivering those here this week. It's gas embedded, so they're going to last a long time. They're probably going to use them again for their team next year, especially if they don't put names on the back. So if you want it to last and be something that is cost effective, we can make that happen even with a more expensive shirt. This is another example of that. It's a jersey, and maybe Tony can show you, but basically we did this for a team. It's actually our team. And essentially what happens with it is that the junior Legion team will play, and then they just take the vest off, and then it turns into a t-shirt. So the juniors and seniors, the juniors who play on that team. And my point in bringing that up is to say not only can you save money, but when you work with someone like Tony, who has been involved with sports for a long time, you end up with somebody who understands how to make limited dollars go far with quality product. And so that's part of the reason we got into this too, was to be able to work with. Most coaches are volunteers. They're not, they're not running the University of Nebraska football team, and so they want good service, good reliability, and they don't want to have to mess around with having somebody who doesn't know what they're doing and designing it and isn't going to follow through with any problems. And we've had a couple of problems with orders that we've received, and we've made it right by getting a replacement jersey for a couple weeks and then coming back with the product that's actually the way that they had ordered it. So it's really important to us, for our name's sake, and for their, the service that we're promising, that we deliver on that promise.
Okay, so dye sublimation, that's what we're talking about mostly here. These shirts that have the artwork embedded in them is the best way I can say it. But dye sublimation starts with all white, okay? It's a clear plain piece of fabric, and they mesh the two pieces together. So they print the design, whatever it is, onto a piece of paper, large, like a newspaper piece of paper, like huge roll. And they press that against the fabric, and I don't know all the science behind it, but Mike was right. The ink is actually some form of gas, it never becomes a liquid and then becomes a solid right into the fabric. It becomes part of that fabric, so it can't peel, it can't rub off, it can be twisted and pulled, and baseball players can slide, and that number is still perfectly in that location. We don't have to re-sew it or re-iron it back on. And the sublimation process does not take very long, but because of the giant machines that are needed, it is a large process, because you not only have to print, but then you have to cut, and then you have to sew it all together, right? Because this is one piece of fabric that was printed and then sublimated together, and then it's all cut out, right? They have to cut it all out, and then they have to sew it all together. And that's why this friend of ours has this machine in Haiti and has created a whole bunch of jobs down there, but we have to wait 3 or 4 weeks to get it back because it is in Haiti. The other thing I want to say about sublimation, and Mike touched on it a little bit, but the artwork and the colors are unlimited. So with heat press or screen printing, it's $5 per color, or it's $8 per printing place. So if you print the chest and the back and the sleeve, it's $8 every time, right? Sublimation's more expensive, but you can do anything you want, right? You can make it any way you want, any color, any design, a photo, a graphic artist design, whatever you want. That's what I love about sublimation. You pay a little bit more, but again, we've said it numerous times, I think it lasts a lot longer because it's part of the fabric.
Well, and this is the Pantone color scheme that one can select from, and you can see just from what they did printing on this, they put this many colors on one shirt. So this is an example, and it's dye sublimated. So just to give you an idea of what's possible, I would say that that's probably the preferred route when you're looking at something that you want to last a long time and you want something to be quality. So whether your nephew plays for Texas A&M, so we do have sort of a celebrity in our midst. Aren't you the aunt of Logan Foster? Is that right? So if they were wanting, now they just go with 2 colors on their jersey, so they wouldn't necessarily need that. But if they wanted something, or if you wanted his picture on it to hand out to the family, that can be done. So, and typically our minimum order is what, 12 or 24? 12 to be able to do dye sublimation. So that's really most teams of baseball or larger, football teams. And pretty much we've had inquiries about soccer, starting to get some inquiries about football, but we started in baseball because it was the right timing and it was what we knew well. And we also had a good coach list. So.
One other thing about dye sublimation is what's so cool is you can make pants, shorts, tank tops, t-shirts, polos, long sleeve, V-necks, just about any darn thing you can think of, any piece of clothing you can wear can be dye sublimated. We did one that had camouflage on the sleeves and logos on the front, logos on the back. I mean, it was the most ugly shirt I've ever seen. But that's what they wanted, right? It was like, oh my gosh, you really want this? I mean, he just went to the nth degree in different designs and colors and on every piece of the shirt. One last thing that I'll mention is we do embroidery as well. I just brought a couple hats to show you. This is what's called flat embroidery, right? It's typically what's on our shirts, on our hats. It's sewn with a machine, but there's no texture to it. It's just flat on the fabric. This is what's called 3D embroidery, and if I hold it to the side, you can kind of see it sticks out, right? So they use like a rubber mat and put it down and embroider over that rubber mat, so it makes the logo or whatever you're stitching stick out. And again, you can do that on shirts and hats, and just gives it another dimension. Major League Baseball started with that, I want to say 5 to 10 years ago, and now it's gotten down into the youth leagues where everybody wants 3D embroidery on their hats because it looks cool. It looks like they're part of the major leagues. So, hold on. One other thing.
It's called puff embroidery.
Puff embroidery. 3D puff is what they call it. That's all that I have for quick education. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. It's 10:40. Mike wants to talk about a helmet, I think.
Yeah, so obviously we do helmets. We do the full outfit for our uniform or jersey for any sport. So we were going to wear our own jerseys for our Legion team and decided not to. But we can do pretty much anything from dye sublimated socks to, we do striping on pants for baseball. We pretty much, The helmet just has stickers on it, so we can work with any budget is kind of the point, and also within reason, and then also ensure that the supply chain and everything is working properly. And if there is a mistake, we back up our products. So I don't know if we really have anything else other than maybe opening it up for questions. And everybody always wants to know what the cost of different things are, so I'm sure that'll be one of the questions at some point, and Tony's going to have to answer that. So.
Well, I have a question to start off, mainly because I want to understand the market a little better. Back when I was in high school, and that's a long time ago, the basketball team would have the same jerseys for maybe 10 years. And then when they got new ones, those were passed down to the JV, and has that type of thing changed? I mean, do high schools, for example, now order new jerseys every single year like colleges do, or do little league teams buy new jerseys every single year?
Well, I'll take my crack at the answer, and Tony will probably correct me, but I think more on the select sport level, like select baseball, midget football, kids have their name on the back of their jersey. In this case, it's just our business name. You obviously have to change that every year. So that's probably our sweet spot as far as our market in the team space. But there are, like we've had some Legion teams who they go 4 or 5 years, they don't put names on the back, but then they reorder them every once in a while. So it's not an every year thing. But we had a high school baseball team in Iowa order from us, and I think they were just tired of their jerseys, or maybe they got worn out, they got ripped, whatever the case may be. Tony could probably answer it better than me, though.
So yes, youth sports typically order new jerseys every year. Sometimes they'll keep last year's and get another one. They have 3 or 4 jerseys. High schools, I found, usually do 2 or 3 years, but if, like Southwest, my son plays on Southwest baseball, and they have so many kids, so many teams, they're usually ordering varsity new every year, and the JV gets the ones before, and the reserves, and then the freshmen. So they're pretty new, because when I was in high school, when I was a freshman baseball player, we had I didn't even have East on it. It just had my number on the back, and it was plain blue, right? But for the most part, the fees that youth sports are paying figure in new uniforms every single year.
To give you an idea of the overall market, we were on a committee at one point for some fields that were maybe going to be built in Lincoln a couple, 3 years back, and they may still be being built. But we're not on that committee anymore, but there was a lot of research done, and I think the youth sports industry in America at that time was like an $8 billion a year industry. So some of that is spent on uniforms every year being purchased. And so we decided that was a niche we understood well, we could supply well, we could provide better service than what we were seeing and reliability in this area anyway. And so we just thought that would be the place to get into the market. Having said that, because folks have been happy, like this summer we have an order for 500 business t-shirts for a bunch of detasselers. So, there's an offshoot of this business that naturally happens and that we can do. And because we own our own screen printer now in Firth, we can get that done in a week. We have our own dryer. I mean, like I said at the beginning, we could do 10,000 shirts for a business if they were so inclined.
Other question?
I have a question. So, say the college level, NCAA, Big Ten, whatever, they have sponsors for each of their different universities. Do you have to go through them then, like if it's Under Armour or Adidas or Nike or whatever?
It depends, and I can give you an example of that. My son went down to a baseball camp actually at Alabama State. He was invited to come down. It's a mid-level Division I school. And at the time, I went up to the merch table because it was a camp with about 150 kids that were there, right? You've probably been to some of these or heard about them. And so they're looking for maybe 3 or 4 players out of it. Well, everybody's there thinking, I want to buy some merchandise. And I asked the guy at the merchandise table for Alabama State, which is in Montgomery, Alabama, who do you guys use? He said, well, we're actually switching to Adidas. But up until last year, they had just a local guy like us supplying them. So my answer is it depends. Most Division I high-level schools we probably can't do business with, but it's not always the case. And so a great referral can be a York College, whoever doesn't have their own supplier or their own relationship set up. And if a mid-level Division I school in the Southwestern Athletic Conference doesn't have that set up, my suspicion is there's many others that don't. They're just using somebody locally to do it.
But Texas A&M is with Adidas, is that right?
Yes.
You know, so Adidas will do all their own printing for Texas A&M, so they won't go out and look for us. But a small school like Alabama State up until last year might say, can you get us the Adidas shirt and print our logo on everything? The answer is yes, we can. The price might be different than what you could go if you went directly through Adidas, because we don't have a wholesale deal with Adidas yet. But we have many wholesale Adidas accounts. Adidas wants us to have a storefront where they can put their bats and their gloves and all that other gear out. We don't have that yet, so.
Have you ever approached the military because they're always giving teas or something away?
Oh man, thank you. No, we have not.
Well,
I will today.
How do you know?
Like running T-shirts, like Lincoln Marathon. So like you guys play in that market?
Because we're so new, we just haven't gotten into that yet. But yes, what we found is the market is so saturated. Everybody needs a T-shirt, and every screen printer, T-shirt shop we've talked with is so stinking busy. They don't care if we take some of their business.
Oh.
So that, at least that's what we're finding so far. Typically people will have a niche though. If a screen printer will have a niche. One of ours has been local bands. Like, he's tired of doing sports stuff because he wants to do just cheap T-shirts for bands, right? Well, we want to do sports, typically fan apparel stuff. But like Mike said, we've had some businesses approach us who want T-shirts. So kind of spreading our wings. But we haven't gotten into the Lincoln Marathon market, no. But that does remind me, I do know Nancy Sutton, and I'm very good friends with her, so I should call her.
Yeah.
I was just gonna ask, so how much is a T-shirt like that, or not a T-shirt, but that polo?
How much is this jersey?
So this jersey,
Well, the colored one.
Yeah, this one?
no,
the polo.
The real pretty one.
So if you did 12 polos, again, it doesn't matter color, you can do anything you want, artwork, the price is the same. If you did 12 of these, you're gonna pay $50 a shirt.
$50.
But the more you do, it goes down a little bit, the more you do, right?
Right.
That is a beautiful shirt. I just really,
Yes, sir.
That's good.
What, so,
really like the shirt.
you basically do most of the dye lamination on like dry fit material only, or is
Nope,
it
this
it
is
specific?
a mesh. There's also a really heavy polyester type.
Okay.
There's all sorts of different fabrics, but typically the best fabric to do the sublimation on is some form of polyester or
Okay.
dry fit type of material.
Then my other question is so you make one batch of 50, and then let's say a year down the road you got another batch of 50, and you want it to be exactly the same. Can you match it pretty darn close?
Perfectly. We have what's called color match. It's like GPS for color matching.
Sure.
If you gave me something like
did that for
this coach gave us this shirt, said we got to have it the same color because we got
Sure.
3 new players. Everybody else has the old one, and you would never have known through the naked eye. This logo was a little bit different. The font was just a tiny bit different, but the colors were exactly because they just put it on the GPS. It's like you go to the paint store and you give them a chip of paint and they put the eye on it. Perfect match. It's beautiful, gorgeous.
We've had teams give us a hat and say we want our jerseys to look like this, and there's hardly any difference in the color scheme. So we have something to give away today if there aren't any other questions. Is that?
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, one more thing to say.
I'm just going to rewind back to the why. We wanted to make sure people got quality fabric, quality materials, so we tend to shy away from the cheap 50-cent t-shirt that you just want to throw a logo on real quick, just because we want people to feel good when they're wearing their fabric or their shirts or their clothes, wear them more than once. So really quality was another piece of our thing. Why can't we get a little bit nicer t-shirt? Why do we have this big cardboard t-shirt that we're only wanting to wear once because after you wash it, it's crusty and kind of, doesn't fit right, shrinks down 7 sizes, right? So Bella Canvas is one example. It's a gorgeous, it's the softest shirt I've ever worn in my life. It's almost like nightgown soft. The ladies love it. The guys, after they wear it a couple times, amazing. It doesn't shrink. It flows on your body. It hides all your imperfections. Just incredible, but it's only $3. But it's not the 50-cent t-shirt. So we just wanted to bring quality versus quantity and t-shirts you're not going to wear in a week or in a year, a month after you wash it.
The only other question would be, is there any special washing that needs to be done with these shirts? Cold, hot, doesn't matter?
No, doesn't matter. Just wash them with your normal everyday clothes and throw them in there, and it's beautiful when they come out.
Yep, these, I can tell you this, because this is actually
This is our Legion baseball team, and we've had 4 or 5 games. I've washed this twice. Or, whoops, that fell off. So that shows you that after the juniors play, then the seniors wear this. And we've just thrown in the regular wash, just like a nylon or polyester, guidance, and there's been no shrinkage, none of that. So we have a giveaway. We are giving away a free shirt. I don't know, is it going to be a polo shirt or just a shirt? We're not sure yet.
Probably like a Bella Canvas.
Like a Bella Canvas t-shirt with a business logo on it, if you will give us your business card. And all we're going to do, we're keeping your information. We're not going to send you a bunch of emails or anything like that. We may ask you to like us on Facebook or send you a little video about this presentation, just reminding you that we're there. But if you're anything like us, you get 20 emails a day from businesses you don't care about, you don't know. Well, I mean, it's just the reality, right? So we're not going to spam you, I promise. But anybody who gets their business card in there, we're going to draw out of there and give that away to. And you're going to work with Tony, and he's going to help you get your logo on a shirt. And you're going to love the shirt and wear it all the time, and hopefully tell everybody about us. So, and if not, then you get free advertising either way.
Can I put like 6 cards in it?
Yeah, you can stuff the ballot box. It's been done before.
And while we're waiting for the hat to be passed, I would like to thank you guys both for stepping to the plate today. All right, Tony, thank you. We'd like to give you a Focus Sweet mug as a thank you, and we appreciate you being here. As soon as we do the drawing, you're welcome to hang around as long as you like, network, get to know each other, exchange business cards, come up, talk to Mike and Tony some more if you want. There's no need to rush off. You're welcome to hang around here as long as you like.
One quick question, Ruth. She was wanting to know, can you wear these to the gym? Because I do work on clothes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anything that you would want to get, we can get pretty much. So, like Tony said, Nike and Adidas right now are probably the only companies that make us have a 10 by 10 storefront somewhere before we can actually display. They just have display standards that they have, so we have to meet. But pretty much anything else you've seen out there, we can get. So, and if we're not a wholesale supplier now, it usually takes us a day or two, and they approve us. So.
Tony, do you have samples of that fabric that you were talking about?
The Bella Canvas?
Yeah, the one that
I don't think I brought it with me.
But I'll make sure, we have an office right here, so Bob, you're here pretty often. I'll bring some, and we're gonna eventually have a little display in there. We just took the office over a week ago, so it's gonna take a little time to get that decorated, but we'll have samples in there for you to look at.
The winner is
Premier Designs, Jody.
There you go. All right. Premier Designs gets a shirt. Thank you all so much for coming out today, and we appreciate it. And we'll hang around afterwards. And like I said before, that's our office. We're here probably 2-3 days a week at least. So.
I'll bring some Bella Canvas and put it in the office.
Thanks again. Oh, we want to do a quick selfie. Can we do that? Is everybody okay with that if we do a quick selfie?
Yeah.
We're going to post it on Facebook, on our Facebook page.
Should you want me to just take a picture?
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah.
There's a slight charge with my picture. Just a T-shirt of some kind.
This way then?
Yeah, just
This will get in the picture.
Thank you. Thanks again, everybody.
John, want to do a copy shop or you want to?
How about the charities that need it? I just got 2 emails.